Hey guys, Will from 1 Kilo here. I'm about to answer the biggest debate in all of fitness and training on the internet. How deep should you squat? And that's coming up right now. Hey all, glad you're here. If it's your first time, 5th time, 10th time, 20th time, please like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you know every time I have a new video coming out. When it comes to squatting, there are a few camps online. Obviously, there's one camp that said, oh, you should never squat. It's dangerous for you. You're gonna hurt yourself if you squat. There's a camp that says you should only squat to 90 degrees. And really that's just one guru, but he's really popular. And so that's out there a ton. And then there's a camp that would suggest that you should squat to a powerlifting depth, parallel to the ground, kind of hold it like a powerlifter because they squat the most. You should squat like that. And then again, there is another camp that says you should squat ass to grass as low as you can go and bury that squat every single time. So which camp is actually right? Before we can answer which camp is right, we need to think about why we actually squat in the first place, right? And any exercise that we do has to have a clear benefit. And in this case, we're talking about athletes, right? So non-Olympic lifters, we're not talking about competitive lifting people. We're not talking about Olympic lifters. Obviously, they should squat a certain way. We're not talking about power lifters. They should squat a certain way, right? Because they have to squat within the confines of what works best for their very specific sport. What I'm talking about is athletes. So in my career, I've coached thousands and thousands of athletes, hundreds of Division I athletes, and this is how I think about the squat when it comes to putting it in their program. So when we think about why we would use a movement, specifically the front squat or back squat, we think about improvements in absolute strength. And absolute strength is what you can move, absolutely. It's not relative strength like pull-ups, muscle-ups, push-ups. Those are all relative strength things. Those are things in relationship to your body weight. Absolute strength is the most weight that you can move. And squats are a great movement to improve and train for absolute strength. We would train for absolute strength because absolute strength really recruits high threshold motor units. The high threshold motor units are you can think about them as the nerve and muscle fibers that are connected to a specific nerve. And high threshold motor units are big motor units, right? The ones in your fingers, those are low threshold. Those are really fine motor units. The ones in your quads, the ones in your glutes and hamstrings, those are high threshold because they're big pieces and chunks of muscle, right? So they need high output things to get recruited, right? Your body wants to use the smallest possible thing. It doesn't want to use extra energy. It wants to recruit the smallest possible motor unit to do the job. So moving light weights, moving little weights, moving no weight, you're just going to go about using low threshold motor units, which is fine if you want to do that. But athletes need to learn how to recruit and use high threshold motor units. So developing absolute strength by using things like squats, in particular two-legged squats, are super duper important for getting those high threshold motor units. Secondly, for most beginner and intermediate athletes, and to be truthful, almost everybody is a beginner and intermediate athlete. The only high-level athletes are really when they're getting in college and they're getting pretty good. Even like my best high school athletes were still labeled beginner and intermediate, right? So beginner and intermediate athletes will actually see an improvement in stuff like jump height, and they'll see an improvement in sprint time with improvements in absolute strength. So get stronger, run faster. Get stronger, jump higher. So improvements in absolute strength, such as the squat, those are actually going to lead to improved measures of athleticism like jumping and sprinting. So for most athletes, get stronger means get faster, and jump higher. So again, we have two big reasons. We're gonna see improved athletic performance. We're gonna see improved absolute strength from squatting for most athletes. Now, squatting alone isn't gonna get you more athletic, right? But combined with all the other stuff that will go in a good program, some good single leg work, Olympic lift variations, plyometrics, and sprinting and lateral movement, you're gonna see athletes get a lot better. So squats are a really important part of a good athletic development program. So now to the question of how deep should you actually squat? The first camp is this 90-degree joint angle guru stuff, right? And that camp is fundamentally wrong, and they cite a piece of research which suggests that, or says that the strongest an athlete is at a 90-degree joint angle. And we know this is true, right? Just go do a bicep curl and stop at 90 degrees. Not that hard, you can move a lot, right? But athletes need to move in joint angles that exceed 90 degrees. And so what they're missing is that research also shows that you get strong in all of the ranges of motion that you move. So if you move to only 90 degrees and back, you're gonna be that good, right? You're gonna be good and really strong in that, but you're not gonna be strong in any range of motion beyond that 90 degrees. So we get strong in all ranges of motion through which we move and load it, right? So if you only move to 90 degrees, you're only gonna be strong there. And if you look at athletes and how they move, they're gonna get deeper cuts in that. They're gonna get in deeper loading positions. They're gonna have to move through different planes of motion, and their joint angles are gonna exceed 90 degrees in a ton of different cases. So if you only move to 90 degrees, you're gonna be missing out on a huge factor in your athletic development. So it may look good on Instagram, it may feel good, you may be able to move a lot of weight, but it's not good to be an athlete. The next camp is the powerlifting camp, right? And that's the parallel squat, low bar kind of thing. And I'm gonna anger some people, but you're probably not watching this video if you're a powerlifter. But powerlifting squats are great for moving a ton of weight. The strongest lifts in the history of the world have been done with a powerlifting style low bar, parallel level squat. But they're not the most athletic lifts. Again, we're only gonna be strong in the joint angles, the ranges of motion that we move through. And so if we stop it at a range of motion that is, you know, less than full depth, we're gonna not be strong in all the ranges of motion. So again, if you short the range of motion, you're gonna have some issues transferring that over to on the court. So I guess by now, and honestly, if you've ever been on this channel, you kind of know where I stand on this. As a weightlifting coach and someone who's coached thousands of athletes who truly believes in the weightlifting movements and the derivatives, I think that the very best type of squat is the deepest possible squat that your athlete can achieve while maintaining a fairly vertical torso. So this doesn't mean that every athlete has to squat full on ass to grass or heels to butt or whatever. They have to squat as deep as possible for them with a vertical torso. So I am a big believer in the idea that the athletic squat, a squat fundamental, is that we maintain a really similar torso position in every type of squat we go. So you go goblet squat, front squat, back squat, overhead squat, all of those should have a very similar torso incline. And that squat is a fundamental squat. And if we can keep that minimal incline on that, and then get the athletes to squat as deep as possible, they're gonna see some really great benefits because they're gonna be moving through their own greatest ranges of motion. Similarly, if we encourage those deep squats, we're gonna see improvements in mobility, right? Time in those new, more mobile positions are gonna see improvements in ankle mobility, hip mobility, thoracic spine mobility if we're using overhead squat and front squat. So we are gonna see improve things through all athleticism. We're gonna see that muscle-bound idea of back in the day by moving through short ranges of motion. We're gonna move through full ranges of motion, and we're gonna see great benefits for our athletes. So if you are training athletes, I think that the deep squat is the best squat. Forget the 90-degree joint angle, forget the powerlifting squat, just squat deep, because talk is cheap. Hey everybody, I hope you really enjoyed that video. It was fun to make. I love talking about this stuff, but please let me know your thoughts. Are you a powerlifter? Have you seen great results with the powerlifting squat or the 90-degree joint angle squat? Do you not squat at all? Are you an RFE split squat or split squat person? One thing I didn't touch on in that video is I love single leg movements, right? So I think athletes should totally be doing heavy loaded single leg movements, but I also am a big fan of the regular squats. But let me know what you guys use. Drop it in the comments. Let me know what you want to hear from me. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. I will see you guys back here next week.